Hello, well, you know me already, but those of you that don't, I'm going to introduce myself. I'm Sophia from the Hospice fundraising team, and we're super excited to tell you about our next overseas trek, which is the Great Wall of China. So this is Sarah from Different Travel, who is the travel company that we use. I'm just going to bear with me with technology. So just before we get into the details of the trek, for those of you that didn't know, I thought we'd just do a little bit about the hospice. So you're in the hospice building now. This is the green, and on site we have 17 beds, but we also, our care provision goes out to the whole of Worcestershire. So whether that's in people's homes, in our unit, come in for the day, or also offering family support through bereavement and counselling. This year, you've probably seen a lot in the news as well recently about hospice funding. It's been a particularly difficult year for us. So this year it's estimated to cost us £12 million to provide the free care and support we do to the community. And 80% of that comes from public donations. So people like you guys, hopefully, signing up to the treks. And these overseas treks are not only really great life experiences for you guys, but they're also such a vital source of income. And also you will make lifelong friends, which I'm sure a few of you in the room have done a trek, will also relate to that as well. So that's just the reason why we put those treks on. And obviously you know that because you've signed up and you're here today. So thank you for even thinking about doing the trek for the hospice. And then I'll pass you over to Sarah, who will tell you all about the actual trek itself.
Thank you. Do you want to carry on doing the clicky bit?
Yeah, I'll do. Yeah,
okay,
I'm on that.
Okay, so just like a little bit to summarise to begin with, it's a bespoke trip just for submissions. So, you know, you will like, once you've done it before, be on the same basis. You'll all be travelling with people from the same common goal. The trek itself is a 5-day trek from the Gubekyu region to Sumatra, and it really is an amazing kind of contrast. You see all different sides of the wall, which we'll get to when we do the day-by-day itinerary. Really diverse landscapes, get to meet the local people. It's so nice. I mean, when you arrive in Beijing, it's all kind of flash and this and the other, but then when you get out into the countryside, that's when you really meet the local people and then staying with local families, and that's a really good bit of it. The food's amazing, and you're getting a chance to obviously push yourself to the limit, all while raising money for a great cause. Everything's included, so obviously return flights from the UK, all your food, all your accommodation, all your entry fees, the local trek team that are with us, so you don't have to worry about any of that. That's all kind of included as part of the cost of the sponsorship. So there we go. Okay, so hopefully this will work, a little Google map thing. The Beijing is where we fly into. Should zoom out hopefully in a moment to show you roughly where we go to trek. That's where we start off in Gubekyu. Hopefully go off to the other bit where we finish off in Sumatra. Get a little bit of the idea of the geography now. It's all very hilly, very dramatic. And yeah, the photos will do probably more justice than this. But yeah, China itself, which is, I'm sure you're aware, it's absolutely massive country. You know, it's just got so much within it. We're only seeing a tiny little bit of it, but what you do see, hopefully, will I
think there's a tree above the
bit bizarre. So yeah, Beijing itself, the capital, I mean, it is very overpopulated. It's a vast city, home to, the last count, 21.5 million people in a fairly small area. So it is a really big bustling city. But having said that, it's got some amazing attractions, and we do have a free day, a day there to do some sightseeing at the end, because you can't go all that way and not enjoy the sights there as well. So the Great Wall of China itself is the longest man-made structure on the planet. We're not walking all of it, don't worry, we're only doing a tiny little section. It was kind of built in a series of different progressions, starting off over 2,200 years ago to protect the Chinese Empire from invaders. The entire distance would be about 5,500 miles, all the way to the sea, sort of right the way across from northern China. Some sections of the wall are still very much in their original conditions. You'll see the signs of some battles and scars from the past. Other bits of it have been restored, and it's actually really nice to see both, because you'll get to see kind of how it was in its heyday and how it is now. And there are certain bits of it that almost you have to really use your imagination to think there wasn't all there at all. It's crumbled away so much. But you'll learn a little bit about the history. The guides are great at telling you what happened along different sections of the wall, the different Chinese dynasties and the soldiers and the battles that took place there. So it's actually really interesting from like a historical point of view as well as the scenic point of view. So on the itinerary, we will be flying out on Saturday the 17th of October, and generally speaking, it will be an overnight flight. There are currently still not any direct flights, which amazes me. The capital of China is ridiculous, so we're hoping they will start to reintroduce those soon. Groups that got flying out this year are mainly flying on airlines like Cathay Pacific, so via Hong Kong. That's the most popular one, I think. But either way, we're obviously not in that position yet. We would ideally be booking flights towards the end of this year when the flights are released, and we'll let you know those details as soon as they're released. So when we get to Beijing, because China is 7 or 8 hours ahead of us, it will be effectively the next day when you get there. Take it to the hotel, which is going to be around about an hour or so from the airport. And then depending on the flight times, you might have some free time to actually explore. It might be that due to the flight times, actually all we do is get there, have dinner and go to bed. So that's very sort of flexible at the moment. But either way, you'll meet your main trek guide, you'll have a briefing, and you'll be sort of prepared for the day when you'll be setting off on the trek the following morning. So on the Monday, that's where we start our trek. So to begin with, it's a drive of about 3 hours to get out of the city and to the Quebec region, which is where we're going to start the first part of our trek. So we tend to get there, have lunch, and then set off to do that first afternoon of trekking. So the first bit is a really old section of the Great Wall, amazing views, say weather permitting, hopefully the weather will be in our favour. And then it's sort of go along the wall and descend it through a forested area to reach the guest house in Quebec, which is where we actually spend the first 2 nights. So it's around about 3 to 4 hours walking. Distance in total is about 8 kilometres, but please don't pay too much attention to the distance. It sounds like not very much at all, but when you're walking on these conditions, it's a lot further than you think. So those 8 kilometres will take 3 to 4 hours because of all the ups and downs and the rough underfoot on the way. So we'll start off with obviously breakfast at the hotel. You'll have lunch in that restaurant before we start the trek, and then dinner when you get to the guest house that evening. So basically, the trek will be very different on different days. As I mentioned before, it will sort of vary from that original structure that's all crumbled away to really restore sections that you've got nice smooth paths and sort of like nicely built steps going up into it. It was built for defence, so it is, you know, by its nature, it tends to be along the ridges and on the high parts where obviously the armies have a good view of anyone coming to invade and what have you. So yeah, the main thing is to obviously prepare for that, train on the hills. There's no solid day of up and down like you would be if you were climbing an actual mountain, but it is up and down every day. So also, you're not walking actually on the wall the whole time. Quite often you'll be walking next to it through countryside. So there'll be little bits that you're going through forest. There'll be a bit you go through farmland, through villages, yeah, lots of steps. And as I mentioned before, lots of hills. So back to the itinerary. So the second day, which is the second day of trekking, is our first full day of trekking. It begins with along a part of the wall which is almost completely worn away. I mean, you can sort of see here, you can just about see the trail of where it was, but it's very, very sort of in ruins along this section. It dates from the Ming Dynasty. It's quite a challenging day. It's one of the lesser visited sections. So one of the nice things about trekking on these parts is that you probably won't see anyone else apart from our group, which is really good. There's one day at the end that you will see a lot of people, but on this day you probably won't. It's a very military, sort of a military focused area. You sort of do a loop, and it's because the wall was built to encircle one of the military encampments that was based there. So there's a lot of history there, a lot of battles took place there. And again, you'll be told all about that by the amazing guides. So it's about 6 to 7 hours in total, 11 kilometres. You see the total ascent of 700 metres. Again, that's obviously not all in one go. It's very much up, down, up, down. Tend to take a packed lunch with us, eat that on the wall somewhere, and then dinner back at the guest house in the evening.
I've lost my mouse.
Doesn't want to.
There we go.
There we go. So just to summarise the accommodation, you've got 1 night at the start and 2 nights at the end in Beijing, where we're in a nice sort of 3-star hotel, which will be in, normal kind of standard twin share rooms, Western style bathrooms and what have you. On the trek itself, we stay in more locally run guest houses, which actually people tend to prefer because you're really getting more of an insight into real rural China there. They will still be twin share throughout, or unless, if people particularly want a single room, we can sometimes request that for a supplement, but on the whole, you'll be paired up in twin share rooms. And even in the guest houses, they are mostly ensuite bathrooms. There may be some that have a shared bathroom between 2 rooms. It does depend a little bit, but they're still fairly decent facilities. On the trek itself, so during the day when you're out and about, if you need to use the toilet, there are some places that do actually have like public toilet facilities that are pretty basic. Other times, depending on where we are, it might just be a question of go behind a tree or a big rock or something like that. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, you have to sort of have little, obviously not to leave any paper or anything behind. So you need to have like a little nap bag or dog poo bag to put the toilet roll in and then dispose of it when you get to that guest house in the evening. Yeah, okay. So third day of trekking, the middle day, we go up to a section which is, well, the name translates as dragons standing on the beautiful golden mountain. And you can kind of get an idea of why when you see the sort of wall snaking away into the distance. Absolutely stunning views. This is one of the ones where you have those real wow moments of the wall kind of stretching into the distance. So again, not that much restoration here, but having said that, it's not as much in ruins as where you were trekking on the first couple of days. So you do still have quite a few watchtowers. And then sections of sort of steep and uneven stones sort of in between, you can just about see here. But then we move away from the wall later in the day, and in that afternoon we actually go down through some forests and through some little farm areas to get to our second guest house where we are for the next couple of nights in Jinshanling. So again, around about 6 to 7 hours walking, slightly longer distance today, 15 kilometres. And then Thursday, this is where it's very, very different. This is where you are walking on a completely restored section, which provides a really lovely contrast, because you're kind of seeing it how it was. So on one hand, it's not as authentic because it's been restored, but then on the other hand, you are actually, able to get an idea of what it was like. So there's a section that was originally built in the 15th century, so not as old, but it's all been restored. You can still see here, it's very steep. If it's raining, which hopefully it won't be, but it can be very slippery. If it's been raining, can be pretty treacherous. Walking poles are a really useful thing. This is also the day that you're probably likely to meet other people, because this is a section that is more touristy. But we still include it because I think it's important to sort of see that restored section to compare it with the other sections as well. And again, we sort of do a big circular loop today and go back to that same guest house overnight for our final night out on the trek. And then the final day of trekking, we do something completely different. So it's a half-day trek because we go back to Beijing that afternoon, but we go up to a really, what is probably the steepest climb that we do, up to a very remote and rarely visited watchtower right at the top of a hill. So it's quite a steep climb up. Some people might get sort of halfway and decide, I'll just sit here and wait for the others to come down, but it's still amazing if you do want to get to the top. It can be a little bit, I think people sometimes feel a little bit exposed because you're a bit more on a ridge there, but it's really worth it. It's absolutely beautiful that it's easy to get from the top. And then we go back down through the forest, we have lunch all together, and then head back to Beijing, which is around about 3 to 4 hours of driving to get back to that hotel in Beijing in the evening. So it's shorter day again on that final day. More photos to hopefully whet your appetite. I think that one on the left there, you can kind of see how steep the steps are. And then another bit here, which hasn't got steps, but it's sort of just a steep slope. So it's really varied. Every day is different. But yeah, get back and walking in. That's the best training you can do. And then we have a full day in Beijing. So we take you to the kind of the highlights, the Forbidden City and Tiananmen Square. It can be ridiculously overcrowded nowadays in Beijing, and it can be quite smoggy, quite hazy. If people do have things like asthma, this is where they'll probably suffer rather than out on the wall itself. A lot of people wear face masks for that reason. But don't let me put you off, because it's amazing. You're going there to see these incredible sights, and you can't go to China and not go to the Forbidden City, not see Tiananmen Square. And then that evening we have a sort of big farewell dinner in the city before finishing off the next day. So all the meals are included, as we've mentioned, in Beijing. It's generally speaking local restaurants, and then while we're trekking, the evening meals will be at the guest houses. Breakfast is probably the one meal, if anything, if people struggle with any of the meals, it's breakfast, because they're not that great at, or rather we're not that great at adapting our taste to what the Chinese might eat for breakfast, which tends to be things like noodles, fried rice. There will be some eggs and some bread, but it's something that, very much isn't really within their scope. So there'll be fruit, there'll be hot tea, there'll be coffee. Lunches are great. What we tend to do in China is actually they lay it all out for you to make sandwiches. There won't be a huge choice of ingredients, but there'll be things like cheese, peanut butter, jam. But it means you can just make what you're going to eat. But there's not too much, especially that and being given something that everyone looks at and goes, "Ooh, don't fancy that, throw it away." You're taking something with you that you will eat. But the meals in the evening are great. It's kind of a bit like Chinese food, but so much better. Because obviously it's all fresh and cooked, all authentic, but it will be served in that same sort of in the round. There'll be lots of dishes on the table. There'll be a choice of obviously meat. It's no problem for vegetarians. And then, you just have yourself. There'll be rice, there'll be noodles, all different things. So water, we're very strict, and they're very good at using boiled filtered water for all the sort of food preparation and cooking. And then you will be provided with bottled water yourselves. You'll need to bring your own bottles or camelback type things. But there'll be big bottles for you to fill your own individual bottles from for your day out trekking. If you want to bring any snacks, go ahead. Once you get out of Beijing, there's not a huge opportunity to buy much. So it's probably best that you do bring that with you, particularly if you've got anything that, particular favourites that you want with you along the way. And then final day, Sunday, is obviously the flight home. Depending again on the flight times, it might be that if it's an early departure, because if the clock's going back on the way home, you might actually land back home on the Sunday evening. Or if it's a later departure, departing in that evening, you'll have a whole extra free day in Beijing, and then you might land on the Monday morning. So that will very much depend on the flight schedules that we book at the time. There is an opportunity to stay on. This is quite a popular, it's not cheap, but it is an opportunity for those of you who might think, well, I'm never going to get to China again, to go on and see the Terracotta Warriors in Xi'an. So if you want to take this option, then basically you have that whole day free on the Sunday, and then we go by sleeper train that evening. So it departs around about 8:30, about 12 hours on the sleeper train. You get into Xi'an the following morning, and you can see some cabins that you're in on the train there. You have got an actual bed, but they're sort of big rooms. And then the local guide will meet you when you get to Xi'an, who will take you that day on sightseeing of the old city. There's a lot of historical interest there, as well as the warriors. And then we'll stay in a hotel that night. You'll have all your meals included. And if you come to the following day, that's when we go to actually see the Terracotta Warriors themselves. So that is really a chance to have the whole day there, seeing all of that. And then again, you go back to the station for the return overnight train to Beijing that evening. Get into Beijing, and then depending on your flight times, we'll either transfer you to a hotel for some free time, or it might be that you just have a quick freshen up and then go off to the airport. Yeah, I think we've got the cost for that later on, haven't we?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
That's you organised.
So that is an organised extension. If anyone wants to obviously stay on independently, that's absolutely fine. You just need to let us know at the time of booking if you want to go off and do something else, but that's something that we will organise. It does depend on numbers. When we get to the costings in a bit, you'll see if it's less than 5 people, it does become horrendously expensive. So we've kind of given a cost based on a minimum of 5. If loads of people want to do it, that cost will come down, but we're kind of costing it on 5 just to give you that initial idea. Okay, so a few frequently asked questions. There is decent mobile signal, and there's Wi-Fi at all the hotels now. China is, as you probably know, they do restrict access to certain websites. They are very hot on their security. So it does vary. So in theory, you can't get onto things like Facebook, but then people get around it with VPNs and all sorts. But you will actually, at least you'll have your phones with you, and your phone numbers will work if you are reliant on that for any reason. insurance. So this is just something that we talk about now because you do have to do your own insurance. Cameron Urban are the company that we always work with, and we know that they're great. They're very good to deal with. They cover all of our trips, but there's lots of different companies out there. Just to say that we do recommend you take your travel insurance out fairly soon after you sign up, because it doesn't just cover you for something happening when you're out in China, but if something happens to prevent you from being able to take part, if you fall over and break your leg and can't go, travel insurance will pay you back the registration fee and everything. So it's important that you do take that out as soon as you can. Age limit, we don't have any upper age limits. Minimum age is 18 if people are on their own. 16, 17-year-olds, we say fine with a parent or guardian. But absolutely no upper age limit. We've had plenty of people in their 70s, 80s on that trip, which is great. So if you do have any medical problems, just basically we'd ask that you, maybe for your own sake, get it checked out and confirm that you're happy with going, or if you're under a consultant or anything, they're happy with you going before signing up. Part of our booking form is a medical form where you have to tick, have you got da, 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 da. If you tick yes to anything, you might be asked further questions. Basically, all of our medical forms get scanned by our medical advisor. Then they may come back to you if they've got any queries. It's important that you do declare these things just so that we know, and we're never going to turn around and say you can't come. That's not what we would do. But it's just important that our team know, so that should anything flare up or happen while you're out there, they can deal with it appropriately. A little bit about footwear, because at this point in time, this is probably the only purchase that you need to make if you don't already have them. We do recommend from the terrain, you don't wear trainers, you do need proper hiking boots. And that's the one thing that if you don't already have them, get them now so you can start the training, get them broken in nice and early. So the climate and conditions, we would expect the temperatures in October to be averaging around 18, down to about 7 at night. Night's not really a problem because you're in guest houses, so it's not like we're out there camping. It can get a lot hotter. It can certainly be up in the mid to late 20s during the day if we have a nice spell. You wouldn't, I think rainfall is likely. We wouldn't generally expect rain, but it could. You have to be prepared for rain. So you certainly do need at least a waterproof jacket or something with you. More likely to be important is having high factor sun cream, sun hats. There are certain sections of, well, quite a lot of the trek is very exposed. You haven't got a lot of shelter from trees and things. So if it is hot, you will get very hot if you don't have sun hat, sun cream, things like that. Already mentioned that in Beijing, it's probably quite likely it will be smoggy and hazy. I don't imagine they'll get themselves picked up that soon, but it'd be nice to think it will happen eventually. And these are just averages. Obviously, yeah, we just have to have that. Anything can happen. So this is something that is really, really annoying, that you do currently still need a tourist visa. We are really hoping that that will change and they will open it up. The actual cost, the official cost is about £190. What we've been able to do for this year's groups is we've been able to arrange a group visa for people that are flying out and back. If you're going off and doing your own thing, you can't, but if you're flying out and back with the group, either on the main trip or if you're doing the extension as well, and that does bring it down to about £100, and it takes away the pressure because we do it for you. You have to send us photos, your passport, we can do it all. Whereas if you do it yourself, you actually have to go into a passport office yourself, which is either London or Manchester, which is a complete pain. Might will change, don't worry about it too much at this point. We'll also keep you updated nearer the time. But one thing I don't think will change is they want to make sure passport's in really good condition. You will need at least 6 months validity after entry on your passport. And yeah, basically, if we can still do the green visas, we will offer that to you because that is an easy way to do it. Just carrying on here with a little bit about health and safety and our reassurance is just to say that we're only going to take you there if it is safe to go. We've only been taking groups back to China since COVID this year, although China was slower to reopen than some other countries. But if there are any risks, whether that be through things like a health outbreak or political instability or natural disasters, like just happened in Myanmar, anything or whatever, then obviously we won't go. We always follow the advice of the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office. And if they advise against non-essential travel, then we would be looking to either postpone or cancel the trip. And obviously you would get your money back. We're not going to take you anywhere that's unsafe. Should anything happen when you're out there, then obviously again we work in conjunction with British Embassy to get you out. But that's will all be fine. Having said that, though, China is very, very different to the UK. People do experience culture shock. It's very, very much open to foreign visitors. However, their political and cultural situation, as I'm sure you're aware, is very, very different to ours. The guides are very open, very happy to explain things to you. If you do have any questions, just be open-minded, talk to your guides, and they will probably be able to sort of answer any questions that you've got. And we do just touch on this as well, because it's a question we do get asked about whether we should be taking groups to China or not with human rights issues, which is incredibly complex in the country. I mean, our view is we also do have a very strict policy that we work alongside our local partners over there to make sure we are enforcing, that there's nothing going on that we don't approve of. Our view is that, by taking groups back there, we are really supporting those local. When you're in Beijing, you don't really see it, but when you're out on the trek and the wall, you really are seeing, you are helping those villages, those trekking communities. And we're just so pleased that we are going back there this year. We've not had any income these people for 5 years now. And now that the groups are starting to go back, it's really nice to feel that we are actually supporting them. So yeah, we're giving something back. We feel that is very much, worth going to do in itself. We've got more information on the website and in our trip docs. If you do have any questions about that side of things, feel free to ask us. But okay, so on to back to the trek rather itself. How fit do I need to be? So we grade it moderately challenging. It's really difficult to come up with these. It's all very subjective. It depends on what is what your norm is. But we feel that it's easily achievable for a person of good fitness with adequate training, but it will be strenuous at times. You've seen there are steep sections. There's lots of uneven steps. You're not trekking huge distances, but those durations is more what you have to bear in mind. Walking 7 to 8 hours a day in hilly terrain is more what to aim for than don't pay too much attention to the actual distances. We do have to keep the right to sort of, once we get out there, if it becomes very evident, as it sometimes does on the very first day of trekking, that somebody really isn't fit enough, or whether it's be through injury or lack of training, that they're not going to be able to complete it, we do have to reserve that right. So I'm really sorry, but for your own sake and for the rest of the group, you won't be able to take part. We don't just abandon you. Obviously, the guys will be looking after you. You'll be put, but if you're incurring any extra hotel costs or anything like that, you do have to cover those yourselves. But I'm sure that won't be a problem. The nice thing about doing this like a local charity is that you can all get together, train together, support each other, and by the time you go 18 months from now, you've got loads of time. And how should I train? So get out and walk, basically, is the first thing to say. If you're not used to walking, just start really slowly, build up those distances, start to do more challenging terrain as you get more and more confident. Do practice walking with your backpack. You will be carrying everything you need access to during the day. You'll be carrying, not anything overnight, because that obviously gets taken to the different guest houses for you. But still, your backpack will end up weighing 5 to 6 kilos, probably by the time you've got at least 3 litres of water, your packed lunch, your waterproofs, whatever else you have got, layers, cameras, sun cream. So it is important that you actually do train with that, because it might be heavier than you're used to walking with. Other activities, anything really that is going to build up your fitness, or whatever you're going to be interested in, whether that's playing sports, running, going to the gym. You really are focusing on your leg and core muscle strength. That's the most important thing for all those hills. You don't have to go and do anything expensive at the gym. You can do loads of exercises at home, but just take it seriously. And you want to get there as fit as you can, so that you're going to get the most out of it and enjoy it. So coming on to the end now. So who's right for this challenge? This slide just depicts that it is really everybody. We get really mixed groups of people, and that's one of the lovely things. You might meet people that you never have come across in your day-to-day life. But yeah, this just it might be that you're doing it for a personal reason. You've got a big birthday. Obviously, you're all doing it to support hospice, obviously. But yeah, you'll all be together with the same goal. So in terms of the support, Sophia and the team here will really be supporting you throughout with the fundraising. They'll also be helping to arrange some training walks, so that you can actually get together for that side of things as well. From our point of view, we'll provide you with things like trip dossier, all the information you need, training guides, discount vouchers for various things that you might want along the way. On the trip itself, there will be a first aid trained tour manager from our company who will be with you, looking after you, they'll be flying out, we'll be looking after you throughout. And then of course, once we get out, we've got our great team of local guides who will be supporting you as well. We will also come up prior to you going on the trip a few months beforehand to do a pre-departure meeting, which is another chance to actually, talk about the trip and anything that you want to know, which will probably be different questions then to now. Okay, so the nitty-gritty bit of how much it costs. So there's two options. The first bit, which everybody has to do, is that initial registration fee. And that is done at the time of booking. You book on our website, you fill in your details, and you actually pay there and then to confirm your place. Just to say, that's £399. Because we're still quite a long way out, if that's an issue, you can choose to pay that in instalments. Obviously, your place on the trip won't be 100% confirmed until that full amount has been received, but you can sort of hold your place and pay it half now and half next month or something, should you wish to. As long as we've got the full registration fee a year out, because that's when we'd be looking to book flights. You've then got two different options. So the sponsorship option is to fundraise a minimum of £3,995. And that is 80% that has to be raised by July, which I think is 12 weeks out, isn't it?
Yeah,
Something?
yeah.
And then the remaining amount by the time you go on the trip. And if you do that fundraising option, that's all covered. That's kind of covered your trip costs as well. So if you want to self-fund the trip, if you want to actually pay for the trip cost yourself, and then 100% of your fundraising obviously stays with the charity, we would anticipate those trip costs when we say now 1996. That's based on it being a minimum of 15 people. If we end up with 20 or 25 people, it'll be lower. It'll be a smaller amount to pay, but that's just to give you what we're kind of aiming for, at least 15 people. And then we would ask you to fundraise £1,500 because all of that is staying with the charity rather than covering any of your costs. So as already mentioned, that includes your return flights, including things like airport taxes. There's nothing extra to pay. All the transport and accommodation in China, all the meals, your trekking permits, our crew out there, entrance fees as well, and our tour manager. Things that are not included, transport to and from the airport. Now I know sometimes you guys
We'll always arrange that together. So we'll probably meet at the hospice and depend on the times. We'll sort that out. So I'll arrange that and let you guys know.
The visa we've already mentioned. So depending on which option is available, and it may have even changed by now. Your insurance, any vaccinations that you need, you do have to take your own personal advice from your doctor on that. There's no requirement for any particular vaccinations for China. You're not going to be in the middle of nowhere. We're going to be within within a 4-hour drive of Beijing should anything happen. And then personal expenses are really things like drinks, if you want to have a drink with your evening meal, or any souvenirs that you want to buy. And then tipping, it is optional, but based on what previous groups have done, between £40 to £45 per person is generally what people have felt it's appropriate to give, but that's entirely discretionary, obviously, it's up to you. So the optional extension then, so because it's quite expensive, we costed it on a minimum of 5, because we can do it for less, but it would be even more expensive than that. So we've kind of given you that as a guideline price. So 775, of which you need to pay 300 of it as your deposit, and then the balance will be the same though 10-12 weeks before you go, and the rest of your trip costs. You can pay for a single supplement. It's only at the hotel. You'll be in those shared cabins on the train, and the single supplement is 80. If we do get a lot of interest in that, and we end up sort of like 7, 8, 9, 10 people, we'll give you a no cost break for that. But we're giving you that as an initial guideline. So if you're committed to do it, on the worst case scenario of getting that amount, pay your deposit. If we only end up with 2 or 3, we'll say to you that I'm really sorry, but we'll give you the option of either paying more to do it, or we will refund you. And then if it's more, obviously we'll be able to bring that cost down. So
Sarah, sorry on that, does that include any meals or anything like that? It does.
Awesome. Yeah.
Oh, here we go.
Yep.
I've looked at these slides before as well.
Yeah.
There we go.
So the big question then, how will I fundraise? Well, obviously, the team here are there to help you. This is just a suggestion to show how, like, breaking it down, it can become far more achievable.
Mm-hmm.
All these sort of individual little things like cake sales, raffles, pub quizzes will all add up towards your total. Looking at that little thing at the bottom, if you were to literally start today, then it would only be, you'd only need to raise £6.67 a day between now and that point in July. That's kind of like a couple of coffins, isn't it? That's quite achievable.
And we appreciate that that amount seems really quite daunting, and it always does, but our fundraisers always manage to achieve it. It's, you break it down into smaller chunks, like Sarah said, and like it's down here, and come up with a plan. And I'm there to support you with your fundraising as well. So if you're like, I don't know where to start, that's what I'm here for. We can come up with a bit of a plan. And a lot of people really surprise themselves. I think we've had people in the room that have done tracks and surprise themselves. Things like your employer, people don't realise their employer often match funds, or someone they know's employer matches the funds raised. But yeah, if you break it down piece by piece, and like Sarah said, £6.67 a day, that's, people would pay that on a coffee, wouldn't they? An expensive coffee a day from now. So it does seem daunting, and we appreciate that. But yeah, we'll go for a plan and break it down into chunks, and we'll also have the team WhatsApp as well. So it's really great to share ideas, and a lot of people sometimes end up getting together and doing fundraising events together if it's too much to do by yourself. So full support from me if you sign up with your fundraising. And how do you sign up?
Oh, yeah, there you go. I'm sure the link is on your webpage, probably on the documents as well. But once you get through to that page for your trek on the website, you just click that book now button, and then that will take you through to the booking form. If you've done a trek with us before, it depends how long ago it was, but if you've done a recent trek with us before, your system, you'll all be on our system already, and once you log in with your password, it will prompt you, sorry, with your email address, it will prompt you for your password, which if you've forgotten it, you can reset it. If you don't have all the information, we fully appreciate that, you know, you may need a new passport, you won't have your insurance when you sign up. That's fine. You can, the way it works is you kind of got your own little portal. Once you've entered those details and booked, you can just log back on and add those details as and when you have them.
We can also, if you're keen right now, scan the QR code. There we go.
Yeah. And yeah, that's just a little added incentive. I haven't actually got them with me because Ali's got them and she's away. But we do, if you sign up on the night, we just do a certain incentive that you get a free buff. And you can see here what buffs can be used for, all manner of things. People generally use them as a, you know, pull up to cover your face if you're going through a sort of a dusty patch. You can tie your hair up with it. You can make an impromptu sling with it. That was just one of our tour manager training days. We had a bit of fun seeing what different uses we could come up with for a buff. But there we go. Okay, any questions?
With the extension, it said on the slide you've got until December this year to decide if you're doing the extension, is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I saw that, I thought, oh, November would be better because actually that's when we're booking the flights. So we really, that's when we need to know, like, basically. So what we'll probably do, what we normally do is a year out, we'll send everyone an email saying, you know, year to go, and that's like a reminder that if you want to book on an extension or change your flight, you just let us know then.
So we can do the £3.99 now and then do the 300 a bit later, so
Yeah.
that 300 plus 775.
No, that's included in it.
Okay. So 775 is sort of
A little bit extension, yeah.
What sort of height are we talking when we're in Beijing? Sea level?
In Beijing, oh, that's a good question.
I mean, we're saying we're doing 800 to 900 meters a day up and down.
Yeah.
What's our start?
It's not high. I mean,
It's not high.
it's not that altitude at all, but it's all well
When I've
under.
just come back from Italy, which was high,
Mhm.
so it was 2000. That isn't, because that was
Yeah.
hard work.
No, it's not. It's not any level that the altitude
Yeah,
itself
okay.
would affect you. You know.
what's the size of the group or maximum?
And the very, very maximum would be 30. Yeah,
And is it just our area, like is the whole group? Or
I mean,
is it from various areas?
It's just, it'll be a bespoke, hopefully, if we get a big enough group. It will be a bespoke hospice group. So yeah, the majority of the time it is people within Worcestershire, and that is because of the nature of what we do. People have been cared for within Worcestershire, but yeah, it doesn't necessarily mean that people from far
Australia.
Australia. So, yeah.
It's supposed free.
But the benefit is as well, because it will just be a hospice group and most people are local to Worcester, is we'll do a few meetings and training walks like that, and there's opportunity to meet the team and get to know each other before you go. But I mean, sorry to put you on the spot, Louise and Lauren and Lynn, they've been on one of our overseas check, and you can say how awesome it is and what an experience it is. Hopefully, I might be a student, but you're here to go second time round, hopefully.
It's a great experience, and you do meet people.
You do, yeah.
It is the experience, but it's no mate.
Yeah.
And
It's never as bad as you think it's going to be.
no,
Is it? Well, I didn't think so. The more
no, I had one day I struggled, but it was pretty,
it's not that.
yeah.
So it's the same travel company, you have
Yeah.
those trips.
Yeah,
When was this hard travel?
In March 2 years ago.
Right.
I'm just gonna end the record. But yeah, we've used different
First one you did since post-COVID.
post-COVID, yeah, but
But Marrakesh, we did the holiday. So we did 9 hours and came